Stop. Just because your seed is a few years old doesn't mean that we automatically need to throw it in the trash. Depending on the crop, seed can hold its viability for years. And there is a quick and easy at-home germination test we can do to check and see if our old seed is still good. Now, I have a bad habit of never wanting to throw any of my seeds away, and I've amassed quite a collection of seeds that are 3, 4, 5, 9 years old. So this year I'm going through and doing a mass germ test of all of this old seed. I'm gonna pitch what's bad and keep what's good. But let's jump right into this quick and easy test. So we'll need just a few supplies to do this. First, obviously, is our seed, some paper towels, a plate, cutting board, or other solid surface, a plastic baggie or plastic wrap, and a spray bottle filled with water. Now, the first step is optional, and that is to soak the seed. I prefer to do this with larger seeded items like peas, bean, and corn, and I will often soak these overnight. So I pop some seeds in a cup, cover them with water, and let them sit. With smaller seeded items like carrot and lettuce, I either just soak them for a few hours or I skip the soaking process altogether and go straight to step number 2. Now, if you opt for soaking, we're going to strain the water off of our seeds using a sieve or small colander. Our next step is to dampen several paper towels and squeeze out the extra moisture. I like to use a double layer of towels on the top and bottom as it dries out less quickly. You can see in this example, I'm actually using a cloth diaper as my bottom layer. We had a lot of these left over from after my kids were potty trained, and they have come in incredibly handy for millions of uses, and this is just one of them. But I've got a cloth diaper on the bottom and I have paper towels on the top here. In this example, I've got actually just a single layer. I've got one paper towel on the bottom and one on top. The nice thing about the double layer of paper towels is that you end up having to re-wet them less often. So I'm going to place the paper towels on a plate or other solid surface, and then sprinkle my seeds on the paper towel. Now, I generally like to have a sample size of at least 10 to 12 seeds of each. Sometimes when there's only a few seeds left in the packet, that doesn't really make sense. So I might only do 1 or 2 in that case, but a slightly larger sample size is going to give you a more usable result. Now, because I'm testing a lot of different varieties, I've got each one labeled. These are just my little plastic plant markers that I use. I write the variety name in permanent marker here, and you can see how I've got this laid out so that I can see what is what. If you're only doing one, obviously this isn't necessary, but because I'm way behind on testing germination, I'm doing a whole lot here. Next, I'm going to cover my seeds with another layer of paper towel. For my smaller seeded items here that I did not soak overnight, I'm actually giving this an extra spritz of water. If you've already soaked your seeds, that's not really necessary. And then finally, I'm going to slip this whole thing into a plastic Ziploc baggie. In this case, I've just got it in a seed starting tray where I've placed a humidity dome over the top of my tray. You can also cover your seeds with plastic wrap. The only thing to keep in mind is I don't like to seal these off completely because sometimes that can lead to mold and rot rather than germination. So I leave just a little bit of an opening so that the seeds can breathe, but I've got them covered enough to keep them from drying out quickly. Then I'm just going to put these seeds somewhere kind of out of the way where they're not going to get disturbed, but someplace that I won't forget to check them every day. They don't need to be in sunlight or under a grow lamp or anything. Just like on the kitchen counter is fine. You could put them on top of the fridge. If you're looking for a warm place to germinate something like pepper seeds, you just don't want to forget to check them. And we want to check these once a day. So I will just come through, pull this whole thing out of my baggie or open up the lid. If this paper towel feels like it's starting to dry out, I will give it another spritz with my spray bottle. And starting at about day 3, I'll start peeking under this top layer of paper towel to see if anything has germinated. Now, depending on the type of seed that you're testing, germination in general with vegetable seeds can take about 3 to 10 days. Some may take longer than that. And if you're testing germination on certain types of perennials, sometimes herbs, even a long germination window vegetable like parsnip, they can take 3 weeks or longer. So if you're unsure, check that seed packet or hop online, see if you can find the days to germination for that particular seed, just so that you're not giving up on them too soon. Another thing to be aware of is that some types, again, this is more with perennials or perennial herbs, some types of seed have specific germination requirements, such as the need to scarify or stratify the seed. Some require light for germination and some require complete darkness for germination. And again, often this information can be found on the seed packet or on the website of the company that sells the seed. If not, just a quick Google search for the germination requirements for XYZ usually works. So we're just going to continue to check these until we see some signs of germination. Now, healthy seeds will have uniform germination and no fungal or bacterial growth. So I started this plate of seed about 4 days ago, and we're going to check what we have going on here. You do want to be really careful when you take the paper towels off because the seed sometimes wants to come with it. So my first row here, I've got some dill and sweet baby daikon radish. We can see that the sweet baby has decent germination here. My seeds kind of clump together, so it's a bit hard to count, but at least 50%. So I'm going to sow that a little thick in the garden just to make up for that lower germ rate. But that seed's pretty old and still germinating quite vigorously. The other thing that you'll notice as seed gets older is that sometimes the germination rate's slow. So not only will less germinate, but it will take longer to germinate. So this row here, I've got some Casper kale and plum and Tokyo turnip. Plum and Tokyo turnip, that looks like just about, well, there's one that didn't. I'm going to say like 90% germination without actually calculating that. Most of them, with the exception of one, germinated. This is the other thing you have to be careful of, that seed doesn't move to a spot where it's not supposed to be, because that was a turnip, that's not supposed to be over here in this row. So none of the Amelie turnip germinated. None of my Yara celeriac has germinated yet, but that's celeriac and celery take longer to germinate, so I'm going to have to wait a bit longer for these. Say give celery at least a week, if not longer. And none of my dill has germinated yet. So I know that I can take my sweet baby and my plum and Tokyo, put those seed packets in my 2 plant for 25 pile. The rest of these I'm going to give a little more time. We can check this tray too. Now this one was started I think a day or two later than that one. That's something I didn't do here, and it's probably a good idea to write your date on your tags so you know how long it's taking for this seed to germinate. But let me peek here. I've got a little bit of germination on my Star Maker kale, just starting to germinate. Do we have anything else? Looks like my Oldenburg kale might be starting. What else do I have? That's a numbered kale starting to germinate there. And maybe no, I'm not sure. I was going to say maybe that's spinach, but we're going to give that tray a few more days and see what happens. And if your germination rate is lower than about 50 to 60%, I just recommend sowing that seed a little extra thick when you're starting indoors or when you're outdoor sowing, just to make up for that decrease in germination rates. And one more tip for those of you who really want to geek out on this subject, if you want some extra resources in regards to seed germination, seed storage, I recommend these 2 books for your gardening library. The first is Seed Storage of Horticultural Crops. This is a very, very in-depth look at just about every fruit, vegetable, seed out there, and it's got really detailed information about the seed temperature and storage conditions. If you want to make sure that you're getting the most bang out of your buck for your seeds, follow the storage information in this. So there are some seeds that are going to store slightly longer at a, say, slightly above freezing temperature, Whereas some seeds, if they're stored frozen, will store much, much, much longer. Some of them require very low humidity, some of them higher humidity. So this really gets into that nitty-gritty. Now, that being said, generally, if you just store your seed in a coolish, dryish area, so mine I just keep in the little packets, inside Ziploc bags, in a plastic tote at just ambient room temperature. And using that method, I still get pretty good storage. So in this book, Seed to Seed, Seed Saving and Growing Techniques for Vegetable Gardeners, this covers a little bit more about like kind of that average seed life you can expect if you're just storing at kind of those average conditions. So under each crop, for example, here's cabbage, it's got a lot of great information about seed production, seed storage, isolation requirements, pollination requirements, all of the information you need for saving your own seed. So this is a great resource for that too. But then it's also got the seed statistics where it says cabbage seeds will remain viable for 4 years. And it's got that information for each major vegetable category. So again, just a really great overall resource that also includes how long you can expect your seeds to remain viable. So there you have it. Don't throw that old seed away. Test it first. Seed is getting really expensive, and I hate for anyone to waste their money and throw away seed that is still actually good. The other thing is this saves you from wasting time and space in the garden planting out seed that may not germinate once it's out there. So if you're bored this time of year, it's snowing outside, grab those old seed packets, give this a try, and let me know what your germination results are. If you found today's video helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel, Growfully with Jenna. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.